ब्रह्माण्डरूपिणे कृष्णाय गोपीनाथाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ नमः कमलनेत्राय नमः कमलमालिने नमः कमलनाभ्याय कमलापतये नमः। ॐ ब्रह्मापेराभिरामाय रामाय कुण्ठमेरसे राममानस हंसाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। And this very beautiful Friday evening, as we're fast approaching the very sacred, most holy day of Janmashtami, I would like to join by G. Vijay Bisram, our chairman, in saying a very special welcome to all of you, our wonderful devotees and friends who are gathered here with us this evening at the ashram for satsang. And also a very special welcome to all our devotees and friends who have joined us on our Facebook page live. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our other two Swamijis, Swami Biswanathananda Ji Maharaj and Swami Shivamritananda Ji Maharaj, and also our sponsors for this, the first session of our Gyan Yagna, the Shiv Narayan family, comprising by Jijai, Bahin Kavita, and their children, Deandra, Nikisha, and Kimberly. This family has a long association with our ashram since in Guyana, and even when they migrated to America, their connection with the ashram has not lessened. In fact, it has gotten stronger. One of the daughters of this family, Deandra, is a member of our executive committee. And Jai is always such a great sevak, so to speak. Whenever we have any work to be done in the ashram and we ask him, he's always here to help. We like to ask God and Guru, ask Lord Sri Krishna to bless them in all ways possible, both materially and spiritually. Devotees and friends, my katha this evening is taken from the Srimad Bhagavat Puran, and it is the story of Krishna and Sudama. I've chosen this story to start with because there are so many lessons that we can learn from this wonderful story. I will use verses from Ramcharitmanas and Bhagavad Gita to tell this beautiful story of Krishna and Sudama. In this chaupai from Uttarakhand of the Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas writes,
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama.
राम कृपा ना सही सब रोगा, जो इहि भांति बने संजोगा। राम कृपा ना सही सब रोगा, जो इहि भांति बने संजोगा।
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai
सद्गुरु पैर बचन विश्वास संजमयन विषय के आस सद्गुरु पैर बचन विश्वास संजमयन विषय के आस
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम 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 श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम
I've heard many times people say that we don't need a guru because we have the scriptures. And now all the scriptures are translated into a form we can understand in the English language. So why do we need a guru? To them, the masters tell us that why do we need a guru? The scriptures are general in their teachings. The scriptures are meant for everybody in general. But we know each one of us is different. Each one of us has different spiritual challenges. Each one of us is at a different point of our spiritual evolution. And so we require specific teachings. And only a guru can do that. And then they say, well, there are so many people who call themselves gurus, but they are not really knowers of the truth. And to that I say exactly. There are gurus and there are gurus. There are kapat gurus and there are real gurus. Who is a real guru? The very word guru is composed of two syllables, gu and ru. The light which removes darkness, the light which removes spiritual darkness. Only one who has realized God, and there are very few in the history of this world, only such a one is authorized to be a guru. And that person has to have the command of God. Our Guru Maharaj, even after attaining the highest spiritual enlightenment, did not immediately become a guru. He waited for about 6 years before he received a command from the Lord himself. Only when he received that command did he assume the role of a guru. Sri Ram had a guru, Guru Vashisht. Sri Krishna had a guru, Guru Sandipani. Our own Guru Maharaj had his great Guru Baba Gambhir Nath, one of the Mahayogis of India, perhaps the greatest yogi of his time. So, Krishna and Sudama as young boys, they were disciples of Guru Sandipani. And so, meeting in the ashram of the great sage, they became great friends. They instantly took a liking to each other. One day, they were sent as part of their duties to gather firewood in the forest for the ashram. The ashram needed firewood for cooking as well as for keeping the fire going in the nights because it was cold in the forest in the nights. So they were assigned the task, Krishna and Sudama, they were assigned the task of collecting firewood for the ashram. They did not refuse even though a storm was coming. It was very evident that a storm was coming. The sky was very dark. And very soon it would pour. It was very dangerous to be caught in a storm in the forest. But these two young boys did not for even a moment question the instructions they received to go and fetch firewood. So the Chaupai is saying that if we want to remove the diseases of our minds, and we have to remove them if we are to find God, then we need such a guru as a doctor, a holy guru, Sadguru, Vaid, Bachana, Biswasa. We must have a Sadguru, a holy guru, a true guru, and we must have faith in his words. Whatever he instructs us to do, we have to follow. And we see an example of this that Sri Krishna and Sudama are showing us, that when the Guru commanded, they did not question, they obeyed implicitly. So this obedience to the Guru is absolutely important if we are to grow spiritually. Shabari, she followed to the letter the instructions of her Guru, Matang Rishi. Whatever he told her to do, she did. And he told her that, Shabari, because of your Guru Seva, because of your selfless service to Guru, I bless you. That you will have this blessing that even I have not had, that you will see the Lord in flesh and blood form. And he instructed her where to go in the forest to form her ashram and to prepare for the coming of the Lord. Shabari waited for years for Sri Ram to go to her ashram. But Sri Ram was not coming. She never even entertained a doubt in her heart that her Guru's words were not true. She knew that if he gave her that blessing, it had to come true. She knew that even if it took 10 years or 20 years or however long before she left her mortal coil, Sri Ram, the Lord, must visit her because her Guru said so, and her Guru was a God-realized being. So, we must have obedience. Once we have found such a God-realized Guru, we must obey his instructions. Shortly after they left the ashram, when they were some distance in the woods, the storm broke and soaked both boys. They were wet and shivering. They hid under some trees. Many hours passed. Krishna was hungry. Krishna loved poha. Poha is a kind of puffed rice. And he knew that Sudama also loved poha, and maybe Sudama had some. So he asked Sudama whether he brought any poha. Sudama had brought poha, but he felt that it was not enough to share between him and Krishna, so he lied. he said to Krishna, no, I didn't bring any poa, I forgot. So Lord Krishna said, okay, that is all right. And Krishna went out to collect the firewood after the storm had passed. Sudama ate the poa, wiped his mouth clean, and then he went to join Krishna. In this shloka from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, verse 4, the Lord tells us,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Yada yada hi dharmasya
Dambodharpobhimanascha Krora-parusyam evacha Ajnanam cha bijatasya Partha samparam ashurim.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Sudama was a Brahmin. And the qualities of a Brahmin, or one of the qualities of a Brahmin, is to speak the truth always, not to deceive. And here we see Sudama lying and deceiving Krishna. Every action we perform has consequences. Every single action, even our thoughts, bear fruits. And here we are warned that do not lie, do not deceive, because if you do, negative consequences will follow. Karna went to learn archery from Parashuram. He knew that Parashuram would not teach a Kshatriya. So he pretended that he was a Brahmin. And so he learned all the skills of archery from Parashuram. He became one of the ace archers of his time. But one day his guru discovered that he had lied to him. That he was not really a Brahmin, he was a Kshatriya. And so he was given shrap that Karn, all that you've learned from me, when your time has come in battle, you'll forget everything. Everything that you've learned from me, you'll forget. And so it was in that final battle in the Mahabharata between Arjun and Karn, when Karn's chariot was stuck in the mud, when he tried to defend himself from Arjun, he couldn't remember any of the mantras to use with his powerful weapons. It was then that he lost his life. Deception and lies only harm us. During the time of Lord Krishna, there was a king who proclaimed to the whole world that Krishna was not Vasudeva, that he was the real Vasudeva. He was the one who was supposed to carry the insignia of Lord Vishnu, the conch, the gada, and all the paraphernalia that Lord Vishnu has. So he told Krishna, you send those accompaniments of Lord Vishnu to me and accept me as the real Vasudeva, or else trouble for you. And we all know what happened to the false Vasudeva Paundara, that he was killed by Lord Krishna. He was defeated. He challenged Lord Krishna to battle and he was destroyed. So, even if we tell a white lie, so to speak, it has consequences. Yudhishthir, it is said, used to walk above the ground, whether it was literal or figurative, that Yudhishthir walked, his feet never touched the ground. It tells us he was an extraordinary being, a highly advanced soul spiritually. But in the Mahabharata war, he uttered a lie to Dronacharya, that Dronacharya's son, Asvatthama, was dead. When Dronacharya asked Yudhishthir, is it true, Yudhishthir, that my son Asvatthama is dead? Yudhishthir said yes. And the moment he said yes, his feet touched the ground, meaning that he became like ordinary human beings. So Sudama lied to Krishna, deceived Krishna. And after he ate the poa, he went to help Krishna collect the firewood. In this next chaupai from Aranya Kand of the Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas writes,
Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Yoga Jagya Japa Tapa Jata Kinha, Yoga Jagya Japa Tapa Jata Kinha, Prabhu Kaho Dehi Bhakti Baralina, Prabhu Kaho Dehi Bhakti Baralina.
Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Yahi biri sara rachi muni sarabanga, Yahi biri sara rachi muni sarabanga, Baite hirdaya chari sab sangha, Baite hirdaya chari sab sangha.
Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Our Guru Maharaj says that the goal of this human life is moksha? God realization or self-realization? What does God realization or self-realization mean? It means this, that we have to free ourselves from our karma. Can you imagine that this is not our only human birth? That you and I, we were born many, many times before as human beings. We can't remember them, but it is true we were born. It is true that we lived before. And in each birth, we accumulated karma. And in each succeeding birth, we bring the karma from previous births with us. So it is an increased load of karma each time we're born. And if we are to resolve that ever-increasing load of karma, how are we to do it? How are we to accomplish this difficult task? Our karma, we're told that we have two types of karma, past karma and present karma. Past karma, of course, is what we did in the past, and present karma is the karma we're doing now. Past karma can be subdivided into two, prarabdha karma, which are now bearing fruits, and sanchita karma, which will bear fruits sometime in the future. So if we have this ever-increasing load of karma, this bag of karma which is growing all the time, how are we to remove this karma? It is so hard when we have to face the consequences of all our karma of this birth and of all past births. Paramahansa Yogananda tells us how we can do it. He says that through sadhana, through our own efforts, we can remove 25% of the sum total of all our karma. And we say, yeah, 25%. That is easy to do, but can you imagine how much is 25%? It is quite a lot of karma, which means that we have to get busy spiritually if we're not yet busy. We have to work hard at our sadhana, extremely hard, if we are to stand a chance of freeing ourselves from the 25%. Another 25%, the God-realized Guru takes from us. So you see why I'm saying a Kapat Muni, a false sadhu, one still in shackles, spiritually speaking, cannot help us. One has to be God-realized to be able to take a disciple's karma. And the Guru has to take 25%. So the Guru takes 25%. So 50% remains. 50% is cleared by the grace of God. If we can convince God that we truly love Him, if we love God enough, if we show God that He comes first in our lives, then by the grace of the Lord, these last 50% can be removed. I remember the words of Swami Purnanandaji Maharaj many years ago when I was a young boy in Guyana, attending a Sunday satsang where my elder sister Nandrani, she's here, she took me, she's the one I'm grateful to for taking me to the ashram. He said that by the grace of Guru, but the exact words he used were, through the padukas of Guru Maharaj, meaning the grace of the Guru, he was not far from God realization. He, Swami Purnananda, at that time. He said he was not far from God realization. All that was left was God's grace. The exact thing that Yogananda is saying here. That God's grace wipes out the final karma. Because that Swami Purnanandaji Maharaj, that great man, through his heart sadhana, had wiped out his 25%, and through Guru's grace, he had served Guru Maharaj so well. By Guru's grace, the other 25% was gone. Now all that was left for him was God's grace to be totally free from karma. So Bhagavad Gita tells us that work must be done as jagna. Let us chant this shloka from Bhagavad Gita, verse 9 from chapter 3.
Govind Hare Murari, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Yada yada hi dharmasya
Yajñartat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanam tar artam karma kamteya mukta sangha samachara.
Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva.
And here Lord Krishna gives Arjuna the secret of freeing ourselves from karma. He says, work must be done as a jagna, as a sacrifice to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. So even if we were to free ourselves from all karma, we're still alive, we still perform actions, we'll create new karma. How are we then not to create new karma? Lord Krishna is telling Arjun, work must be done as a jagna to the Supreme Lord. Work only for the Lord. Whatever we do, hey Prabhu, we do it only for you. That is the attitude, my Lord. I do it only for you. When we work with that consciousness that we're working for God, then karma cannot bind us. It's a strange thing. Even good karma will bind us. And you might say, well, that is shocking. Yes, it is good to do good karma, but any karma will bind us. But good karma has the ability to take us to that stage where we can even renounce good karma. We work only for God. It's like, you have a bank account and you want to close the account. If you have $100 in the account, can you close the account with $100 inside? No, you have to first withdraw the $100 to make it a zero balance. Only then you can close your account. Once there is money in your account, you can close it. So good karma, while it is good, it's like money in the bank, but we can't close our karma bank account, so to speak. So we have to surrender even the good actions. Bad actions and good actions, we have to surrender to God. It is not easy to remember always when we are performing action to surrender actions to God. But the Lord in His compassion, Guru Maharaj in His compassion, they have lowered the bar for our sake, so to speak. Guru Maharaj says, before we go to sleep at nights, as we meditate on God and Guru, after our meditation is over, we mentally surrender the fruits of all our karma for that day at the feet of our Guru, at the feet of Guru Maharaj, at the feet of God. In that way, karma will not bind us. So the Chaupai says, Sage Sharabang, he offered to the Lord whatever austerity and sacrifice, prayers and penance and vows he had observed, and received the gift of devotion. He surrendered all his karma to the Lord's feet when Sri Ram visited him. And so all his karma was resolved, and he received devotion, true devotion for God. And that devotion brought God's grace, which resolved all his karma. So Tulsidas says that thus the sage built a funeral pyre, and discarding all attachment from his heart sat thereon. These are symbolic words. He built a funeral pyre for all his karma. All his karma was burnt to ashes, to nothing. He was a free soul. After leaving their guru's ashram when they had graduated, Krishna became the king of Dwarka, whereas Sudama lived the life of a very poor Brahmin, hardly able to provide for his own family. You see? Because of that act of lying to Krishna, on that day when they went out to collect firewood, a Brahmin is usually poor. A Brahmin wouldn't have a bank account. Nowadays it's different, but during those days, a Brahmin totally depends on God. But a Brahmin usually is poor or was poor. Nowadays, perhaps it's not really so. But Sudama was even poorer than the average Brahmin. He couldn't even afford food for his family, his increasing family. At nights, when rain would fall, the water will soak through the roof and wet his children. And when the cold wind would blow, they will shiver. It was a life of abject poverty, a life of intense suffering. So much so that Sudama's wife asked him to visit Lord Krishna for help, because Sudama had told his wife so many times about how great Lord Krishna was and how good friends they were. Sudama had first refused. He said, I will not go and bother my friend Krishna. He is the king of Dwarka. He's very busy. But she insisted. And so he went. They were so poor that all that he could take with him as an offering to Krishna was a little poor. Just 3 mouthfuls, or a little more than that, in a cloth his wife tied and gave him to take for Krishna, because Sudama told her how much Krishna loved poor. And so he went, but he went on condition that he would not ask Krishna for anything. His wife said, Sudama, you don't need to ask Krishna. Krishna is all-knowing. He will do what needs to be done. So Sudama, with much trepidation in his heart, went to visit Lord Krishna. He was thinking, it has been such a long time. I'm such a poor Brahmin. Krishna is a king. Would he even accept me? Would he allow me even to see him? Would the guards, even seeing me to be such a beggar, allow me to visit with Lord Krishna? And so with these doubts in his mind, reluctantly, Sudama went to visit Lord Krishna. In this Chaupai from Krishna Chalisa, the poet writes,
O Ram Raja Ram Raja Ram Raja Ram Ram, O Ram Raja Ram Raja Ram Raja Ram, O Ram Raja Ram Raja Ram Raja Ram Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Ram Jai 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 Rama, के दुख तारियो तंदुल तीन मुटी मुखदारियो दीन सुदाम के दुख तारियो तंदुल तीन मोती मुखदारियो राम राजा राम राजा राम राजा राम राम ओ राम राजा राम राजा राम राजा राम राम दुर्योधन के त्यागो मेवा कियो विदुर घर साक खलेवा दुर्योधन के त्यागो मेवा कियो विदुर घर साक खलेवा ओ राम राजा राम राजा राम राजा राम 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 राम.
So when the guards saw Sudama dressed in rags, they had doubts in their minds about his story when he told them he was friends with Krishna. So they asked him to wait at the gate of the palace whilst a message was sent to Krishna about a beggar named Sudama who is claiming to be Krishna's friend. What should they do with him? When Lord Krishna heard that Sudama was at the palace gate, he left everything behind and he ran to meet his friend. Such a faithful friend the Lord is. He took Sudama to his palace, put him to sit on the throne, and with his own hands, the Lord of the universe washed the feet of his friend Sudama. Such sweet humility. God's humility. He's so humble. And that is why he also expects us to be like him, to be humble. It is said that one day Sage Brigu decided to test whether Lord Vishnu was indeed humble. So he walked into Vishnu Lok without paying obeisance to Lord Vishnu, without showing any respects. Walked up to the Lord and planted one kick on his chest. That was the height of insult. For Brigu to go and kick the Lord. But what did Lord Vishnu do? He held the feet of Brigu and he massaged it. He said, Brigu, my chest is like a rock and your foot must be hurt. Let me massage it for you. That is the kind of humility we see in the Lord. And that is why the saints tell us, pride is like the top of a mountain. When water falls on the top of a mountain, it can't stay there. When God's grace comes down, it can't stay where pride is present. But in the valleys, the water accumulates. In the valleys of humility, God's grace dwells. These verses from Krishna Chalisa is saying that, compassionate that you are, O Lord, you took pity on Sudama, and you had his impudence removed by putting 3 handfuls of rice into your mouth, while you forsook Duryodhana's delicacies. You enjoyed the simple food at Vidur's house. Vidur, in the Mahabharata, was a good man, holy, pure. Duryodhana had invited Krishna and prepared a feast for him. But Krishna did not go to eat Duryodhana's feast, even though he had many delicacies. Krishna went to the home of the simple devotee and ate bhaji and rice. Simple food. Because that food was prepared with love, whereas Duryodhana's food was prepared with pride. So God is so humble. Whatever is offered to him with love, he accepts. Sudama, the Lord asked Sudama, Sudama, did you bring any poa for me? Sudama was embarrassed because he brought only a little. He said, no, Krishna, I didn't bring anything. But Lord Krishna said, I know you brought poa. And he pushed his hand into his pocket and pulled out the poa. And he just took a little bit, put it in his mouth. And he was satisfied. Because that poa was sent with love by Sudama's wife. So, whatever is offered to the Lord with love is relished by the Lord. They said that one day, Radha was feeding Lord Krishna banana. Radha was one of the topmost devotees of Lord Krishna, the favorite of Lord Krishna. And in her love for the Lord, she was beyond body consciousness. She was in such a high state of spirituality, a higher consciousness, that she was not aware that she was feeding the Lord the skin of the banana in her hand and the pulp of the banana she had in the other hand. She thought that was the skin. And Krishna was eating the banana with the greatest relish. And when she came back to normal consciousness, she said, Lord, forgive me. What did I do? And Krishna smiled and said, it tasted so good, Radha, because it was offered with love. There is so much misunderstanding between Radha and Krishna. Even supposedly holy men, they refer to Krishna and Radha as ordinary lovers. But it was not so. Krishna is the Lord. Radha was one of his greatest bhaktas. Her love was divine, pure, holy. It was not any kind of ordinary human love. Sometimes scriptures, the truths in scriptures are told in parables, or they're told in story forms for ordinary people like you and I to understand, like you and me to understand. Some people say Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives. Is that physically possible? But what the saints wanted to understand, they use symbolic language. That the ordinary joy between husband and wife, multiply that an infinite number of times. Here they use 16,000 times. And then you will begin to understand what divine love is. It's just symbolic. It's not literal. Those who take it literally, they are fools. The same thing with Lord Shiva. Some people say Lord Shiva drinks bhang, and Lord Shiva smokes the pot. And you have many sadhus. They make a living, or their sadhana is to smoke pot. That is their sadhana, smoke marijuana, and they say they're worshipping Lord Shiva. They're so mistaken. Again, symbolic language of what spiritual bliss is. That the people at that time, they knew what bhang was. It was an intoxicating, in inverted commas, kind of drink. It gave, like when you drink coffee, how you have a lift. Same way, when you take bhang, you have a lift. Your energy gets up and you're able to do work. Whereas before, you were not feeling that active. So what the language is trying to say, that the joy that you have from drinking bhang, if you multiply that an infinite number of times, then you will understand the bliss of Lord Shiva. then you would understand what divine bliss is. So it's just figurative language for us to understand. In spite of Sudama's flaw of lying, the Lord treated him with such love. God's love is unconditional. The true Guru's love is unconditional. Were it not so, there will be no hope for us, because over and over and over, we commit errors and mistakes. We commit sins. There will be no hope for us if there were no forgiveness, if God was not so loving to us. But as the great saint said, God doesn't mind our flaws. And I've said this so many times, but every time I say it, it gives me goosebumps. God doesn't mind our flaws. He minds our indifference. And what is our indifference? We don't care for Him. He gives us everything: the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. He keeps our hearts beating. He keeps us alive every day. He gives us energy to move. Without Him, we cannot exist even for a single second. And yet the one who is a reason for our lives, we don't remember. We're indifferent to Him. That is what hurts the Lord very much. His love is unconditional. Without that unconditional love, there will be no hope for us. In this concluding Doha, the poet of Ramcharitmanas writes,
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Siya Ram Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Jasu Nam Bhava Besaj Harana Kurataya Sula So Kripal Mohito Hi Param Sararahau Anukula Jasu Nam Bhava Besaj Jai Jai Ram Siya Ram Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Siya Bhaj Ramachandra Ki Jai Sharanam.
after spending some time with Lord Krishna, Sudama asked leave of the Lord to go back home. He was so happy. He had reminisced with Krishna about their pastimes. So much joy was in his heart. And as he was walking, he was telling himself, true, I didn't ask Krishna for any material thing, and true, Krishna didn't give me any material thing. But I'm so happy at having seen Krishna, at having been in his presence. So with these happy thoughts, as he approached where his home was, he couldn't see his home. His home was a little thatched hut. He saw a beautiful palace, and he saw a lady dressed in royal attire approaching him. He couldn't recognize her until she got very close, and then he recognized her to be his wife. And all the people were coming, and they were addressing him as their king. See how kind Krishna is. He made Sudama a regional king and gave him enough wealth that he will never be in poverty again. And Sudama always remembered the kindness of the Lord. As he lived out his days, he remembered Krishna. His thoughts were ever on Krishna. So, the Doha says, may that gracious Lord, whose name is an unfailing remedy for the ills of rebirth and the remover of all the three grievous pains, ever remain propitious to us all. How kind the Lord is. Prince Sudarshan, we're told in the Chandipat, even though he suffered misfortunes because of his love for Divine Mother, she gave him back his kingdom. She gave him a beautiful queen Shashikala. And together they remembered the Divine Mother. They worshipped her with all their love. And she blessed them immensely. So dear ones, the story of Krishna and Sudama gives us hope that even though we might be flawed, like Sudama was flawed, even though we might have flaws, even though we might have deficiencies, if we go to the Lord, we will not leave empty-handed. May we all seek the Lord's lotus feet. May we all find the Lord in this life before our time in this world is up. That is what I pray for all of us. Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Swamiji, for your wonderful discourse and our first session of our 3-night celebration here at America Shivesh Sangha, celebrating Sri Krishna Janmashtami. Devotees, tomorrow night our yajna continue. Our second session, it will be sponsored by JP and family. He's inviting each and every one of you, and you will be able to listen to a wonderful another discourse by our Reverend Swami Shiveshwanandaji Maharaj. As Swamiji mentioned, we fastly approaching the grand day, the birth of Sri Krishna on Sunday the 29th. And again, we'll be celebrating our Krishna Janmashtami celebration here at America Shivesh Sangha at 9:15 a.m. All are welcome. Again, all are welcome also tomorrow evening to join us for our second session. Devotees and friends, we will have 2 more bhajans before we proceed to Guru Konkulnati. I will ask my Ravina Ramarup to lead us in a bhajan, followed by our final bhajan by Mona ji. Devotees, if you need to know more about our ashram, you can always visit us online on our social media page. We have all our information posted there. You can share our flyers. We have a lot of events going on. We have our meditation class. We have our kirtan class for youths. If you need more information, you can get that information at our information desk after satsang this evening.